What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Hermansson versus Vettori. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Gil Vellante versus Jake Collier. And to me, I think this fight's pretty easy. I think Jake is really just primarily a wrestler. And I think at best he's a middleweight, maybe a light heavyweight. The fact that he's at heavyweight is ridiculous. He looked really out of shape in his last fight. I think Vellante, he's got really good takedown defense and really solid boxing. And I think he's just going to eventually knock Jake out. I think Jake's going to get exhausted from shooting for takedowns that he's not going to get. And I think Vellante, as soon as he starts letting his hand go, is going to knock Jake out. I think it's probably going to be a first or second round KO, but I'm leaning towards Vellante. Next is Illa, I can't say his last name, versus Damon Jackson. And I think this is going to be like Damon Jackson's last fight. I think that Illa slowed down a little bit towards the end of his first fight. I think he definitely hits way harder. He's definitely the better boxer overall, but I think Jackson has a way of just continuously wrestling and grappling and tiring guys out. And I think he's going to win by submission eventually. I think, that's his biggest strength, is the fact that he doesn't get tired and he can keep scrambling and wrestling and grappling. His only weakness is his striking. He gets caught with big shots coming in a lot. If he's able to just work on that, then he can beat most people, in my opinion. His grappling is good enough, and his conditioning is good enough. So I'm leaning towards Jackson to get a late finish like he did in his last fight in the third round. Next is Jimmy Flick versus Cody Duran. And these guys are both pretty well-rounded. Obviously, Cody Duran's probably a better striker, but I think it doesn't matter unless he catches Jimmy Flick early. I think if Flick can get this to the ground, he's going to win by sub eventually. I think it's kind of like the Damon Jackson thing where his grappling ability, his conditioning, and the fact that he's so offensive on the ground, just guys break eventually, and I think he's going to win by sub in like the second or third round. Next is Matt Wyman versus Jordan Levitt, and to me, this depends on entirely how much Matt Wyman's got left. I know he's probably not going to win, but I'm still leaning towards him. I think he is the better overall fighter. It just depends on how much he worked on his wrestling, because I think Jordan has the type of wrestling where he can just pin Matt to the ground repeatedly and win by decision like Matt did against that other guy who was just a wrestler. I think Matt's striking and overall jiu-jitsu are better. It's just how much can he defend the wrestling. If he can defend the wrestling, then I think he wins this fight by decision. If not, then the other guy's going to win by non-decision. But I'm leaning towards Matt. I think he gets a solid decision as long as he can stop the takedowns. Next is Louis Smolka versus Jose Albert Quinones. And to me, the biggest thing is, can Smolka make weight? I mean, Smolka, he makes me worry because it feels like he's good enough to beat a lot of people, but I don't know how seriously he takes this shit. He's like BJ Penn too. If he takes this super seriously, he should win. I think that in terms of overall striking, it's not a huge gap. Like, Jose is definitely better, but not by a lot. As we're on the ground, Smolka's got a massive advantage. I think if Smolka is ever able to get this to the ground is on top of Jose, he's going to win by sub. He's just way better on the ground. And like I said, if he's taking this seriously, he gets this to the ground, I think he wins by first or second round submission. And that's just what I'm leaning with. I'm leaning with Smolka winning by first or second round submission. On the main card, the first fight is Musavar Avalon versus Nate Landwehr. And to me, Nate's really just a striker. I mean, he has pretty solid takedown defense, but I don't think that matters. I think that Musavar is too good everywhere. I think that his conditioning, wrestling, and striking and jiu-jitsu are just all way better than Nate's. Like, the striking is the only thing that's probably close, but everything else, Musavar is just way better. And I just think he's going to eventually tire Nate out and win by like a sub with a rear naked choke in like the late third. So I'm leaning towards Musavar to get a late third submission once Nate starts to really slow down. The next fight is Roman, I can't say his last name, versus John Allen. And to me, they're both strikers, but I just think Roman's just the way better striker. I also think Roman has better overall ground game. But like I said, they're both primarily strikers, primarily boxers, and I just think Roman's the much better striker. I mean, John can always catch Roman. He's a pretty good striker, but I just don't think it matters. I think Roman's going to win by first round KO. Next is Montana De La Rose versus Tilia Santos. And to me, this depends on if Montana can just use her wrestling. In her last fight, I don't know why she didn't shoot for any takedowns at all, really. It felt like, to me, she might have once or twice, but just not hardly any. I think on the ground, she's the much better fighter overall. On the feet, I would lean towards Talia. Like I said, it just depends on how smart she fights. If she can give this to the ground, I think Rosa has a strong chance of winning. And because of that, I'm leaning towards her to win by sub. But if she's going to fight like how she did in her last fight, she's going to lose pretty easily. Next is Gabriel Benitez versus Justin James. And to me, this is two both really good kickboxers. The biggest thing to me, Justin James looks like he does not have a great gas tank. I've seen him fight twice in the UFC, and both times it looked like he was just going out there to try to get a really quick knockout. And when you look at his record, almost all his wins are by KO. And to me, it just shows that he's a really fast starter, and he cannot keep that pace. He has a really strong first round, and then he fades really hard. I think Gabriel, Gabriel's been caught before, but other than him getting caught with huge shots, he's a really strong chin. Like, no one's ever, like, TKO'd him over a long period of time. Like, the 2 times I saw him get finished were because someone hit him with a huge head kick or something like that. Like I said, other than Justin catching him with a really big shot, if this is just a long kickboxing match, which is what I think it's going to be, I strongly favor Gabriel. Especially if this goes to the ground. I think Gabriel's the much better grappler. And, like I said, his conditioning's overall better. And in terms of their striking, it's about even. I just think Justin blitzes people really hard early. If Gabriel can kind of just weather that early storm, he definitely wins this fight anywhere after the first round. And I'm leaning towards Gabriel to win by pretty much any way he wants, as long as he can survive that early blitz. Next is Ovince St. Preux versus Jamal Hill. Ovince did miss weight by a little bit. Not a ton. It was only like 2 pounds, I think. It's still annoying because he missed weight, but, at least it wasn't a horrible miss. My biggest thing is I just think that Jamal Hill, hasn't fought any amazing wrestlers yet. We've seen him get taken down a lot. He's been able to pop right back up, but I feel like that was against guys that weren't the greatest at holding him down. And now we're going to see him fight someone who's a bit better of a wrestler. In terms of the striking, too, I think Jamal Hill definitely throws a lot more volume, but another big thing is he hasn't fought a huge puncher yet. And it's like OSP's both. OSP's a good wrestler and a huge puncher. Jamal likes to throw a lot of volume, and I feel like if OSP can catch him with a big counter, he'll probably knock him out. And, even if OSP hadn't missed weight, I was probably going to pick him anyway because I just feel like his overall striking, although Jamal has better volume, I think it's better. And once again, his grappling, I think Jamal looks athletic, but I think OSP's the better grappler overall. So I'm leaning towards OSP to win by either decision or a knockout with a counter. Next is Jack Hermansson versus Marvin Vettori, and I don't know why, I normally don't look up the odds too much, and sometimes I'll just look up 1 or 2 people. Marvin Vettori is a favorite, and it's really weird because he's taking this fight on short notice, and I mean, Jack Hermansson just beat his teammate Kelvin by first round heel hook. I feel like the striking, Marvin Vettori probably hits harder, but I don't think he has a massive advantage. I think on the ground, Hermansson has a pretty big advantage anywhere it is. I think Marvin Vettori is probably the stronger wrestler, but in terms of the overall grappling, I think Jack Hermansson has a huge advantage. I think this fight's overall pretty close. I think the more it's on the feet, it definitely favors Vettori a little bit, but not a ton. Like I said, I think it's mainly a power thing, as where Hermansson's got the volume. I think this fight is close, but I just favor Hermansson because I feel like he will eventually get this to the ground, and if it is on the ground, like I said, his overall grappling game, in my opinion, is a lot better. Vettori's a strong wrestler, but Hermansson's just better at scrambling, getting on top, and going for submissions. And because of that, I'm picking Hermansson to win by sub in probably the 2nd or 3rd round, maybe the 4th, but like I said, the more it's on the ground, the more it favors Hermansson, and I think it will hit the ground at least a few times, and I think eventually he's going to get a sub. So I'm picking Jack to win by sub. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.